Scorpio 3, a house raising. This fundamentally is about working together. And the reason why we tend to like to do that, people have historically been in a situation where it's been a requirement for their survival to help out their neighbours and have their neighbours help them out. For example, in the American period of settling the West, one would help with this house raising, and that would be a collective community experience where everybody would work together, raise the foundations and the structure of a house for a neighbour, and then have a party. And the whole experience was beautiful, lovely, and most importantly, community building. It is obvious really that we need to have this sense of belonging to a community for us to feel safe and actually to cope with a very difficult set of circumstances, the struggle to survive. So the whole process of developing this sense of loyalty to each other and caring about somebody else's requirements of survival and relative comfort. Our whole process in life is to do with some kind of evolution, and the process of evolving inevitably requires us to have a varied selection of types of relationship with different people. It's not only the family relationship that matters. Falling in love, having children, loving your parents and your grandparents. These are all self-evident in a way. But to extend that to include the neighbour, that's trickier. It's not at all obvious why we should try to form a harmonious relationship with people who quite often they want the resources that we want. We're sort of competing for resources with our neighbours. Why would we want them to feel the same sense of intimacy that we express towards our family? When we're considering the purposes of shared work, and more than that, it's not only work, it's caring for your neighbour enough to help out with their work. Why is that important? And I think we have to look at our spiritual tasks. It is only really fulfilled in relationship. Everything that we do spiritually alone eventually has to express itself in how we relate to people. And the very close, intimate relationships of a lover or a family member, this is much more obvious. But if we can actually also understand that we have a great deal to gain from forming deep relationships with our neighbours, in order for us to grow, in order for us to become more spiritually aware and evolved as a person, we need to meet people outside of our comfort zone, outside of our range of experience. And when we share work with somebody, we put aside almost everything that normally we find creates in us a sense of prejudice. It doesn't matter if somebody's actually good with a hammer, whether they vote the same way as you. It doesn't matter if somebody's willing to bring food for the gathering, if they have very strange ideas about music. We see what is primary and we see what is secondary. And this is a very important understanding, and it is gained through testing people. And we test people to see whether or not when we're working together, it is actually feasible. We can work with that person or we can't work with that person. It's a very big question of whether or not they're actually part of our community. And if somebody wants to be a part of our community who does not want to share in the workload, the shared workload of the community, well, that creates a sense of doubt in us, a sense of resentment in us. So we test people to find out if, when push comes to shove, we can count upon them. And that's because actually push has not yet come to shove. We're not sure what will happen in the future. We just don't know. But that sense of feeling prepared for the future, some kind of insurance policy against dire emergency in the future, that sense that we have of needing some reassurance there is gained when we form working relationships with people in our community. It's also pretty clear that working in a team is a real boost for our willingness to put in more effort. It's so much easier to work hard when you're surrounded by other people working hard. And of course, we develop a power through accomplishment. And this power of accomplishment is not so easily gained alone. When we share it with other people, we don't get a portion of the sense of triumph. We get the same sense of triumph. If you're on a team and your team wins, you feel triumph. And it's easier for us to feel that sense of accomplishment, and therefore the power that comes from having this sense of being able to overcome problems. And this is given to us by our involvement with groups. Now, it's foolish for us to think that we can do very much alone. We can't. We need a group of people to work with to achieve anything. And the sense of cooperation that develops from working together is the secret we need to guard against uncertainties in the future. If some emergency challenges us individually in the future that we just can't cope with, we can pick up a phone. We can ask the fire brigade to come and put out a fire. We can ask some friends to come around and help us lay the foundations of our house. We can ask for babysitters to take care of our children when we have urgent tasks that we need to overcome. We take it for granted that we can pick up the phone and gain community support. But when we think about it deeply, we find that the emotional impact of that, the sense of, okay, life's safe, which we take for granted nowadays, this was not present in all areas of life in our history at all. We've developed this sense of security by needing to